Hello students, welcome to today's class. In this class, we'll be learning about C programming. Um, let me share my screen. Okay. In this class, our title of the class is C programming. The contents we'll be covering are character set in C, C tokens, keywords, identifiers, rules for naming identifiers, constants, variables, rules for naming variables, types, declaring a variable, assigning variable to a variable, assigning values to a variable, symbolic constant, defining symbolic constant, variable constant, declaring of variable constant. Okay, so let's get started. First, character set in C. Character set means the valid characters that can be used in C programming. So that means when you are writing a program or you're coding, you can't write whatever you want. There are some characters like um, you can write in Bangla, okay? You have to write in English, like that. The characters those are allowed in C programming are characters in C. You understand? So সেইগুলোই তোমার ক্যারেক্টার সেট যেগুলো দিয়ে তুমি প্রোগ্রামটাকে লিখতে পারছো। ওকে, সো দ্য ক্যারেক্টার সেট alphanumeric character set. What is alphanumeric character set? This is basically the name of the character set. Okay, so alphanumeric character set has both alphabets like letters and digits, also some special characters in them. All right, so the contents of alphanumeric character set are alphabets, digits, special characters, and white space. Alphabets, you know, alphabets like uppercase letter or lowercase letter, both are allowed in character set of C. And then digits, in digits, we can write any numbers in between 0 to 9. All right, so that means যে তুমি 99 লিখতে পারবা না, cause 99 is when you position two nines together in sequence, together is 99. So when it is allowed that you can write 0 to 9, that means you can also write 99 or any number in between. Okay, so then special characters, also special characters are allowed like comma, semicolon, plus sign, etc. Like any special characters like dollar sign or asterisk, everything is allowed. All special characters are allowed. Then the final content is white space. What is white space? Those are not really, those are, you can see white spaces. Space, when you can only see space when it is just in between some visible characters, right? Like saying hello world. All right, so hello and world, when you see hello and world together, you know that there is a space between. So you can, this white space only because you are saying visible letters. Okay, so just white space, and have you ever seen a typewriter? Typewriter, there is a process called carriage written. What does that do? It just reads a new line, like just like that. All right. So carriage written, you can see carriage written, but just like that, there are like new lines and all, there is that process. Okay, we'll be learning about that. So the next topic is C tokens. What is token? Are the smallest unit or smallest, um, like imagine a building. There are many things like elements. So the main thing is the bricks. The bricks, you position the bricks side by side or on top of each other. Then you create a full building. All right. So those brick blocks, they're the smallest unit. You can say the smallest unit of a building. Like that, in C programming, their smallest unit, those are called C tokens. Just when you break a building, what do you say? What do you see? You see some bricks, right? Some block of bricks. So when you make a C program, whatever you see, those are actually the C tokens. All right. So here we can see each word and punctuation is given as token. So I'll show you the C tokens how it works. I'll show you later. Okay. Then when a compiler breaks a program into tokens and then proceeds to various stages of the compilation. You know about tokens. So why do we need to know about tokens? Because that's how compile. So you know how to write a C program, but you know how it is being executed. That is not, you are being a computer engineer. So you have to know these steps and how it's actually working. Okay. So what does compiler do? Compiler takes your code into C tokens and then compiles them into token by token. All right. So that is called various stages of the compilation. All right. So there are many stages like queuing, scaling, you know some of the names, but you don't know some of the C program. Those are like in some part of C tokens. All right, could be any of these, or they may belong to any of these. So the next topic is keywords. Well, keywords are predefined. Obviously, keywords are predefined. They are reserved words used in programming that have specific meaning. So that means keywords are some words that those already predefined. When you created your C program, they have defined some words or keywords. You can write them anywhere, but you can call them anywhere in your code. Keywords are part of the syntax and they cannot be used as an identifier. Just what I said. Like you cannot use them as identifier. What is identifier? If you ask, I'll show them just a little later. You can see here, right? Okay, so keywords are some that are reserved for the code. Like here you can see in the example section that is int var. Okay, this is actually we're talking about a variable, but first we have written this word that is int. What does int mean? Int means integer. That means the data type of this variable var. Okay, so this int keyword, this has a meaning, and that means this is a keyword, and we cannot use this word as identifier in later on in our code. Okay, so then we have identifier. What is identifier? Identifier refers to name given to entities such as variables, functions, structures, etc. So identifier basically when you name a thing, okay, like তোমার একটা pet বিড়াল আছে, তুমি তাকে একটা নাম দিলা. So just like that, if you declare a variable, you give it a name, or if you declare a function or structure, you have to give it a name. That is identifier. Like whichever identifies an attribute that is identifier. Okay, identifiers are given names. All right. So next we have identifiers must be unique. Give a unique name to an entity to identify of the program. So why do you have to give it a unique name? Because suppose you have two cats in your house. All right, so you cannot name both of them Minnie. So when you call Minnie, which cat will arrive? Which cat will reach to you? So they will be confused. Just like that, you cannot give the same name to different attributes of your program. Like you were creating two variables, you were naming both of them var. You cannot do that. because when you were assigning values to that variable, they might have different values into them, right? Just like that, এখানে যেমন আমি var এর মধ্যে 2 অ্যাসাইন করেছি, just like that আমি আরেকটা var নিলাম, সেটার মধ্যে আমি এবার 3 অ্যাসাইন করলাম। So when I call var, which var will come? So the compiler will be confused and it will show error. So you can give same name to different attributes of a program. You have to give different names, so the identifier have to be unique. So here, the same example we are using, that is int var equals to 2. Which identifier? The name we have given, that is var. Okay, int is keyword, so this name we have given, so this one is identifier. All right, so we cannot change the int section. It has to be int. But the var, we can change these sections. We can we can name it just a, or we can name it just y. It can be anything. Okay, so we'll be learning more about naming variable in the content section. Okay, so next we have rules of naming identifier. So here it is. The rules of naming identifier are: a valid identifier can have letters, both uppercase and lowercase letter, digits and underscore. Okay, so that means identifier name can have letters, uppercase letter or lowercase letter, doesn't matter, and it can have digit in it or it can have underscore in it. But one thing, the first letter of an identifier should be either a letter or an underscore. Okay, so you cannot use a digit, the first letter of the identifier that you were naming. All right, so you have to start it with a uppercase or lowercase letter or an underscore. Then we have, you cannot use keywords. We have learned keyword just about now. So we know what is keyword. Keywords like main function. When I say main, the compiler knows there is a main function as a keyword. So you cannot use main. You cannot use stdio, stdio. So there are many things. Those are keywords. So you cannot use them as identifier. So the compiler will be confused. Don't confuse the compiler. That's the one thing. When the compiler gets confused, it will show error. So don't use keywords. Then there is no rule on how long an identifier can be. However, you may run into problems in some compilers if the identifier is longer than 31 characters. If you're using a good compiler, you can use a identifier named with like 100 characters. It doesn't matter. But if you are using um, like not very good compiler, then you have to shorten it into 31 characters. All right, next we have constants. Constants refer to fixed values that the program may not alter during its execution. So now we know what is variable. All right, so oh no, we don't know variable, right? So constant are something that we know. Identifier can, you can change the values of identifier, so that means it is changeable. But constant is something that is not changeable. When you declare a constant, you have to give it a value which you cannot change at any stage of your program. Okay, when you're executing a program, you cannot change the values of constants. Okay, when you're writing a program, you can change the constant. When you are declaring the constant, you can change its value whenever you want. But when you have given it to execution, you cannot write a program like it is executing when it is in some middle line of the program, it will see that you have to change, it has to change the values or the value of a constant. You cannot do that. You cannot write a program like that. Okay, so the compiler will be confused again and it will show, you know what, error. Okay, then they're also called literals. Okay, constants are also called literals. We may refer to constants as literal in later on. So you have to know that constants are also called literals. Then constants can be any of the basic data types like an integer constant, a floating constant, a character constant, or a string literal. Okay, so they can be of any type. Okay, then we have variable that I was talking about. Okay, a variable is nothing but into a storage area that our programs can manipulate. Okay, so that means variables are like, you know, variables are like, you are just naming a location in your memory. That is variable. Like you in computer, how computer stores data, it stores data in the storage of the computer, like in the memory of the computer, but where this data is stored you don't know. But then how do you call your program, how do you say your program to use that data? How does your compiler knows which data to bring, which data to fetch? It doesn't know. That is why you use a variable to label that of your memory, of your computer's memory, and say the name of the memory to your compiler, so your compiler knows this is the data that you want, or which data to bring. Okay, so a variable is nothing but a name area that our programs can manipulate. Okay, then rules of naming a variable. Variable name must begin with letter or underscore. They can be constructed with digits or letters. Only underscore is allowed among all the symbols. No keywords are allowed to be variable. These are the same rules to name an identifier. So if I have written these rules in different words, so that if you don't understand any of those rules, you can understand these rules. Okay, those are same rules. Here is a footnote that is variables are case sensitive. So if you name a variable with uppercase letter, you have to write variable in any portion of your code with the same name, that uppercase letter. You cannot just write down the lowercase letter and assume that the compiler will not understand. So you have to write that code in the same case that you have declared it in. Okay. Then we have data types, an attribute of data which tells the compiler or interpreter how the programmer intends to use those. So in short words, whichever data you are putting into a variable, that defines which will be. If you're putting a number, so the data type will be something like integer or float or double. If you're putting a letter, so the data type will be character or string. Okay, so I've already said in my words that the data type that we mostly use are integer, float, double, string. So these are the most common data types in C. Okay, now declaring how to declare a variable. To declare a variable, first you have to write down the data type of the variable and the variable name you have given to it. And then the most important, semicolon. You cannot miss the semicolon, then again it will show error. So suppose we are declaring a variable, then what do we have to do? We have to write down the data type. Suppose we are storing a data like integer type data into the variable. So we just have to write int, then space, then the variable name, and then the semicolon. Don't put this much space in between. I have written it with this much space, so you get to know, or you don't get confused that this is the data type, this is the variable name, and semicolon. Okay, so now you want to assign a value to the variable. What do you do? Again, in the same type, in the same way, you have to write down the variable data type, then the variable name, then you give a equal to it, and then the value you want to put in the variable, and then finally the most important, semicolon. That means you are writing int, a space, then the variable name var, then space, then an equal sign, again space, and then the value that I want to put is 5. So 5, and and the most important, semicolon. Okay, you can put the spaces or equal sign, it will be the same. Okay, if you want, I like putting the spaces instead of equal sign. It looks good to me, or it looks fresh to me. So it is up to you. If you want to put the spaces, you are free to do so. If you don't to put, also do so. Then this is how you declare and assign a variable in the same line. Okay, but what if you have already declared a variable like this in the beginning of your program? Then what do you do? Declared variable. If the variable is already declared, then what do? You just write down the variable equal then the value. Okay, the variable name you have given and then equal the value. So what does that mean? I don't have to put the data type in the beginning of the line because I've already done it in the beginning of my program. So I don't have to do that the second time. Okay. Then we have symbolic constant. We have learned about constant, but we don't know what is symbolic constant. Symbolic constant is represented by a name or a symbol in a program. Okay, symbolic constant cannot be changed. Just like constant, symbolic constant cannot be changed in the program. But symbolic constant, what does symbolic constant do? I'll talk about that later. First, let us know how to define a symbolic constant. For defining a symbolic constant or how to write a symbolic constant, we have to put hash. So when a compiler sees hash define, it knows the next whatever is coming, they like fixed in the program. So we are first writing down hash define, then the name of the constant that we put, then the value of the constant that you wanna give to the constant. Okay, so how does it work? Okay, so what I have to do, hashtag define, then the value of pi, that is 3.1416, we all know. All right, so what does this means? Whenever your compiler sees the hashtag define, it knows something fixed is coming. So when it says pi, compiler just memorize this, and when execute the program, actually not compiler, this work is done by preprocessor. Your preprocessor, whenever your preprocessor sees the word pi, it in the whole program, it just replaces this word with this number and sends it to the compiler. So if you define a symbolic constant and replace this name with this value, the compiler never get to see this name. Okay, because it is replaced with this number. So whenever you are writing pi in your program, the compiler will see this number. Okay, because the preprocessor has changed this name with this number beforehand. Can you see? There is no semicolon. There is no semicolon. If you put semicolon, it will be wrong. So this is not mandatory, but this is a good practice. So you can try to put the name in uppercase letters. As you see, I put the name in uppercase letter. Then symbolic constant is case sensitive. Again, this is case sensitive. So you were naming it pi. When you were lowercase pi, the preprocessor will not change that name with this number. It will only change whenever it finds this uppercase C and uppercase I together. Okay. Then what is variable constant? Well, variable constant is, it is literal constant. As I've said, we'll talk about it later point. Look, the literal constant is variable constant. Okay. So this is actually a variable which was declared as a constant later on. That means if you, this is actually a variable. So what does variable do? Variable can change at any point of your code. But when you declare it as a constant, it cannot be changed. You cannot change it whenever you want. So how to declare a variable constant? To declare a variable constant, you have to write const, then the data type of the program, sorry, the data type of the constant, then the variable name, then the value. Okay. Suppose as I have declared a variable var. Okay, but then I've given a value to the var, but now I'm saying no, I want to put 2 in var, I want to put 5, so I can do that. So what I'm doing, I am 5 into var. This is int type data, integer type data, but I am declaring it constant. So it will be 5 forever. Okay. So this is this is all. We don't have more today. So this was like the basic of C programming. There are a lot more, right? So hope you all will enjoy the class, and we'll learn some more later. Okay, goodbye.